With nearly 40 years of history, GameStop's journey has been nothing short of a roller coaster ride. From the days of being known as Babbage's with a single store in Dallas, to the days of over 4,000 outlets and expansion into several continents. From the days of quick acquisitions to periods of severe financial decline, the company has seen it all. In this video, we will look deeper into this fascinating chain and see how it was able to surf the highs and lows of the business world. Let's find out. The brainchild of two Harvard Business School graduates, the 1984 version of GameStop, or Babbage's as it was known then, was selling computing software and hardware, along with video games and consoles. To add some context, this was an era where the video game industry had flooded the market with new consoles and games. So much so that a saturation point had been reached by the time Babbage's opened shop. The sluggish state of the video game market in the early 1980s translated into an average performance for the store. But its fortunes were about to change dramatically. Over the 2 to 3 years of slow growth, the retail store had kept its doors open by selling computer software along with gaming hardware and software. But more importantly, it had managed to establish itself as a bona fide one-stop shop for video game enthusiasts. It was this goodwill that was created during a lean period that would catapult it into the next era. In 1985, Nintendo launched the Nintendo Entertainment System, a console that revolutionized gaming and started an industry-wide turnaround. The early adopters of Nintendo flocked enthusiastically to the shop they knew and trusted. Over the late 80s, the retail giant would piggyback on this rise in the market and sell everything from consoles to games, including gaming hardware like headphones, joysticks, and more. By the mid-1990s, having gone public and opened over 300 locations all across the United States, the company decided to merge with a similar chain. The other retail giant was Software Etc., a set of stores dealing in computer software and hardware, along with video games. On paper, this may have seemed like a logical match. After all, this merger more than doubled the total number of stores under the parent company's control. This company was called NeoStar Retail Group. However, this business decision was the start of a tumultuous time in GameStop's history. Well, we are talking about GameStop's predecessor, actually, as GameStop Inc. did not come into the picture till 1999, but this phase was a vital cog in its creation. After a couple years of declining sales, changing CEOs, competition from other retailers, and lean holiday seasons, the merged entity was not left with enough cash to even stock up for the upcoming holidays. Who saw that coming? In 1996, NeoStar filed for bankruptcy. It had gone from a behemoth to a failed venture in a matter of years. The remains of this entity were picked up by Leonard Riggio, a man with immense retail experience, for $58.5 million. Now was the time for a new phase in GameStop's evolution. Mr. Riggio started a phase of consolidation, closing down multiple locations and launching the GameStop brand. At this stage, GameStop was not a company. It was a chain of small retail stores under the new company. The new company was called Babbage's Etc. GameStop stores were born with a vision to become a giant in the video game retail industry. By 1999, the once stumbling entity had found some solid ground. Now is the time for a new entrant to fuel Babbage's Etc. to the next step: Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble's purchase of Babbage's Etc. injected $215 million into its accounts. This takeover was necessary to realize the goal of becoming a video game retail giant. The next step post the acquisition was to acquire another video game retailer called Funko. Babbage's Etc. now became a wholly owned subsidiary of Funko. After Babbage's was absorbed into Funko, the joint entity was renamed GameStop Inc. in December of 2000. Phew! Finally! After multiple stages of acquisitions and renaming, now we have a prominent retail chain that would soon become the largest video game retailer in the world. Once GameStop Inc. had gone public in February 2002, it put into action a number of strategies that would hold it in good stead for the next decade. What were some of these strategies? Let's see. Post its public offering, GameStop Inc. began to set up stores in as many locations as possible. By the mid-2000s, GameStop had half as many retail outlets in the USA as Starbucks. What's more, these outlets were easy to maintain and did not need much floor space. This allowed them to operate locations that were in the middle of crowded, well-known marketplaces. They gained visibility, footfall, and reliability with respect to end users. With a huge number of video game enthusiasts now frequenting these stores, the GameStop locations gave people with similar interests a place to gather and be themselves. It wasn't just a store, it was a hangout spot. GameStop was creating a community. The next strategic decision they made was to include pre-owned games in their sales inventory. With a trade-in program, anybody could come in, return a game they had finished and now had no real use for, and get a small amount of store credit. The store credit received was not the best offer one could get, but it saved them the hassle of running around town and looking for a better deal. Customers saw value in this. The trade-in feature not only allowed GameStop to sell more new games, but it also accumulated an inventory of used games that could then be sold at very high profit margins. With the cyclical way the video game industry functions, every time a new console was released, GameStop directly benefited. Record sales were registered when the Sony PlayStation 2 and Microsoft Xbox One were launched. There was also a sharp rise in trade-ins, resulting in an increased inventory and sale of pre-owned games, a great source of profits. Due to their growing popularity, GameStop was able to get a higher number of consoles from manufacturers for resale. Launch parties for these consoles ran into midnight and often involved notable celebrity appearances. GameStop Inc. developed another great source of revenue in the shape of Game Informer, a magazine dedicated to console and video game reviews. The magazine became one of the most popular ones in the United States. At its peak, the magazine had over 2 million active subscribers. Game Informer itself brought in a huge amount of advertising revenue for the company. They converted their position of being the biggest video game chain in the United States to the biggest in the world. This was achieved by acquiring similar chains in France, Australia, and elsewhere. The biggest acquisition was EB Games at around $1.4 billion. Riding on this wave of success in the video game industry, GameStop's revenue grew into billions of dollars, topping $9 billion in 2012. But the only way after reaching the top was down. What had been the strength of the chain so far was going to be a huge drawback for the years to come. With the launch of new generation consoles from both Microsoft and Sony in the early 2010s, the age of digital downloads had well and truly begun. At a time when digital downloads were going to become the new norm, GameStop Inc. had made multiple investments in brick-and-mortar establishments to increase their reach. Except the customer did not have to get out of the chair anymore. In-store purchases decreased, as better internet connectivity meant more and more downloads. The manufacturers were also more than happy to remove the middlemen. When the brick-and-mortar purchases kept failing, GameStop decided to diversify into smartphone retailing with the purchases of Simply Mac and Spring Mobile. The revenues of these stores never caught up to the expectations of the company and were eventually sold off for huge losses. This was primarily a result of strong competition from other retailers. The next bad acquisition for the company came in the form of Kongregate, a developer of browser games based on Flash technology. But as Flash became a redundant platform, so did the games created through it. Instead of betting on itself and its expertise, the company lost money left, right, and center on investments that can only be categorized as misdirected. They did not plan to tackle the digital issue head-on. Sales declined, share prices declined, and with multiple top management ins and outs, the trust in the leadership declined. Even a bid to sell off the company fell flat on its face. GameStop was looked at as a risky investment. Facing losses of close to $700 million in 2019, the company was in chaos. But its fortunes saw a mini revival once again. It's as if the company has multiple lives, like the main characters in video games. Once the pandemic struck, bored people at home saw video games as a great escape. Sales saw a 1,500% increment in April 2020 as compared to the previous year. This led to the rather infamous rally of GameStop's share prices. But that's a whole different story that we will leave out for the purpose of this video. If you're interested in knowing about GameStop's stock market controversy, let us know in the comments. Maybe we'll make a video covering that topic. Anyhow, while the company has not recently performed well in terms of profits, its revenue remains significant. An increase in sales during the pandemic, a new CEO in Ryan Cohen focused on Web3 technologies, and the hiring of Amazon vet Matt Francis to guide the company into the future are all rays of hope for GameStop Inc. After watching this video, what do you think about the company? Was it overconfidence that led to GameStop's downfall? Also, have you noticed a change in the upkeep of GameStop stores as compared to its heyday? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content on some of your favorite companies. We'll see you in the next video.